When the mad titan Thanos returns with a power greater than the Infinity Stones, only gods can stand against him. Superman, the last son of Krypton, and Thor, the god of thunder, are forced into an alliance forged in blood and destiny. Worlds will burn, skies will shatter, and heroes will fall as the final Infinity War begins. But Thanos is no longer fighting alone. He commands an army that even the gods fear. In the ultimate clash of might and will, the fate of every universe hangs by a thread. The skies over New York were not blue anymore. They bled red, streaked with fire and cosmic energy, as if the heavens themselves had been torn apart. Buildings trembled, oceans roared, and satellites crashed from orbit like dying stars. Humanity looked upward with fear, their screens flooded with one name, the name that had returned from the void. Thanos. Not the Thanos they remembered. This was no longer the Titan who had snapped his fingers to erase half of all life. No longer the tyrant who once wielded the Infinity Gauntlet. No, this Thanos had evolved. His armor glowed with markings not of this universe. His veins pulsed with a power that defied physics itself. The mad Titan had touched the eternal forge of oblivion, a mythical source of strength said to predate even the birth of time. Now, he stood above the ruins of Titan's moon, eyes burning like black suns. His voice echoed across space, transmitted through energy waves so powerful they crossed galaxies. The stones were only the beginning. Now, I wield the power that forged the very cosmos. No god, no man, no hero will stand in my way. And the multiverse shivered. Far away, in the Asgardian realm of New Vanaheim, Thor felt it first. He was sparring with warriors, his laughter booming as Mjolnir and Stormbreaker clashed against enchanted shields. But suddenly thunder stilled. The skies above him dimmed. His heart clenched. He dropped both weapons, eyes narrowing as the thunder whispered into his ears. The Titan rises again. Thor turned, his hair crackling with static, his fists trembling. Impossible. He was destroyed, but the storm never lied. At the same time, across Earth, deep within the fortress of solitude, Superman floated silently, eyes closed, surrounded by crystals glowing faintly with Kryptonian code. His mind reached into the cosmos. A piercing sound struck him like a dagger, billions of cries across countless galaxies, all screaming the same name. His eyes snapped open, glowing crimson. His jaw tightened. His voice was barely a whisper. Thanos. The crystals around him flickered wildly. Even Krypton's ancient archives shivered at the Titan's name. Superman clenched his fists so hard the air cracked around him. If he's returned, then no world is safe. News broke instantly. The Avengers' satellites picked up Thanos' signal. The Guardians reported entire systems falling into silence, and intergalactic networks began broadcasting the truth. Thanos had rebuilt his Black Order. Worse, he had armies not seen before, forged from something darker than Chitauri, stronger than Outriders. Creatures made of shadows, their bodies glowing with the fire of collapsed stars, marched under Thanos' command. They didn't just kill, they consumed. Worlds turned black after their arrival, as if erased from the canvas of existence. Thor arrived on Earth within hours, storms heralding his return. He crashed into the Avengers' compound, his eyes blazing, his voice heavy with urgency. Stark is gone. Rogers is gone. Banner gone. But Thanos rises again, and he is not the same Titan we once knew. Only silence followed him. New heroes, strangers to Thor, stood in awe of the god's presence. But Thor knew none of them could stand against what was coming. He needed someone else. Someone not of Asgard, but of another world. Superman's arrival was no less dramatic. The sky cracked as a sonic boom announced his descent. The Man of Steel hovered above the compound, his cape flowing like a war banner, his eyes sharp. He landed with a force that rattled the ground. For a moment, everyone froze. Two gods standing side by side for the first time. The last son of Krypton and the god of thunder. Thor smirked, tightening his grip on Stormbreaker. You must be the one they call Kal-El. Superman extended his hand firmly. Superman, and you're Thor. The handshake wasn't just a greeting. It was a pact, a silent vow. But there was no time for pleasantries. Alarms screamed. Screens flickered with live feeds from across the globe. Cities burning. Armies of blackened monsters descending from the skies. The invasion had begun. In Metropolis, shadow creatures tore through skyscrapers, their claws slicing through steel like paper. In London, the skies bled black as a portal opened, dropping thousands of beasts upon the streets. In Tokyo, entire districts vanished in blasts of cosmic energy. Superman's fists tightened. "We split up. I'll protect Metropolis. You cover Europe." But we regroup when he shows himself. Thor nodded. "Aye." When the Titan reveals his face, we strike together. And then, without hesitation, they launched. Superman shot across the skies like a crimson comet, his heat vision burning swarms of shadow beasts from the air. He ripped through buildings to rescue civilians, his speed blurring as he caught falling debris. Every punch he threw shattered the sound barrier. Every breath of frost froze hundreds of creatures mid-air. Yet they kept coming. Thor, meanwhile, descended upon London with storms so fierce they cracked the clouds. Lightning bolts larger than skyscrapers obliterated waves of monsters. Stormbreaker tore through armies, returning to Thor's hand drenched in cosmic blood. Mjolnir spun like a hurricane, smashing through enemy lines. "Come then," Thor roared, his voice shaking the heavens. "Face the storm of Asgard." But even as the two gods fought, the monsters did not stop. For every 100 slain, 1,000 more crawled out of portals. The battle wasn't survival. It was stalling. And then, the ground itself shook. The skies warped. Space split open. Thanos had arrived. Hovering above the battlefield, Thanos no longer wore his old gauntlet. Instead, his right arm was fused with something far more terrifying. A living gauntlet of cosmic flame, its fingers made of molten light, its veins glowing with the Forge's power. He looked down upon the chaos he had unleashed, and his grin cut across the battlefield like a blade. "Two gods," he said, his voice booming across continents. And yet still not enough. Superman rose from the battlefield, blood streaking his face, his cape torn. His eyes glowed like twin suns. Thor hovered beside him, lightning crawling across his body, both Stormbreaker and Mjolnir crackling in his hands. For the first time, Superman and Thor stood together against Thanos. And the Titan only laughed. "Come then, let's end all wars." The sky shattered into blinding light as the three Titans collided, the first clash of gods that would decide the fate of every universe. The air itself cracked apart as the first blow landed. Thor hurled Stormbreaker, lightning splitting the battlefield into 1,000 veins of fire, while Superman blurred forward with a sonic boom that shattered every window in a 10-mile radius. Thanos met them both with one swing of his burning cosmic gauntlet. The shockwave rippled across the earth, flattening forests, toppling buildings, and silencing the skies for a moment. When the sound returned, it came as chaos, an orchestra of thunder, screams, and collapsing stone. The Titan's power. Thanos laughed, the sound low and terrible, vibrating through the bones of every creature alive. His arm of fire caught Stormbreaker mid-swing, twisting the weapon like it weighed nothing. At the same time, he blocked Superman's strike with a mere backhand. The Man of Steel spiraled across the battlefield, smashing through 4 buildings before finally stopping against a ruined tower. Stronger than before, Superman muttered, his cape torn, his jaw bleeding. He launched himself back into the fight without hesitation. Thor snarled, "This is no ordinary Titan. He's fused with something ancient, something even Asgard feared to speak of." Thanos grinned. "You speak of the Forge of Oblivion, a fire that burned before your gods crawled from the void. And now it is mine." He raised his arm, and entire legions of shadow creatures exploded into raw energy, feeding him. His body swelled with cosmic flame. The earth itself cracked beneath his feet, a struggle for balance. Superman came in fast, faster than light itself, his fists a blur of red and gold. He struck Thanos with a flurry so rapid it looked like a storm of comets crashing into a planet. Each blow could shatter a mountain, and yet Thanos stood. One punch landed directly on the Titan's chest. The shockwave carved a crater 10 miles wide. But Thanos barely staggered, only smirking as if entertained. Then, with a roar, he drove his fiery fist into the ground. The earth convulsed. Lava spewed into the skies. A pulse of energy rippled across the planet, knocking Superman back and forcing Thor to summon every ounce of lightning he had to shield the civilians below. Still, millions screamed as cities crumbled. Thor's rage unleashed. Lightning burned the sky white as Thor rose, both Mjolnir and Stormbreaker spinning in his hands. His eyes blazed blue, his veins surging with the power of the All-Father. "You threaten Midgard again, Titan?" Thor bellowed, then faced the fury of a god who has nothing left to lose. He hurled both weapons at once. Stormbreaker cleaved through the air like a shooting star, while Mjolnir spun with thunder that cracked the atmosphere itself. Thanos caught Stormbreaker, but Mjolnir smashed directly into his jaw with a sound like a star exploding. For the first time, the Titan staggered. Superman seized the opening, heat vision igniting like the wrath of two suns. The beam struck Thanos full in the chest, searing into his armor, burning through his cosmic flames. The battlefield glowed brighter than daylight, cities miles away blinded by the radiance. For a heartbeat, victory seemed possible. The mad Titan rises again, but Thanos only roared louder. His gauntlet of flame pulsed, drawing on the forge's endless power. The wounds sealed, the armor glowed hotter, and his grin widened. "Do you see now?" Thanos thundered. "The gauntlet was a toy. The forge is eternity. Every strike you land only feeds me." And with that, he struck. Thor was blasted into the sea, waves rising like tsunamis as he vanished beneath the water. Superman was caught midair and slammed into the ground with such force the shockwave traveled across continents. Skyscrapers fell in dominoes. The earth shook like it might split in two. Thanos raised his flaming arms skyward. Portals ripped open above every major city. More shadow creatures poured out in endless streams, oceans of darkness drowning the world. The war had begun in earnest. Superman's stand. Battered, bloodied, Superman clawed his way out of the crater, his breath ragged. Civilians screamed in the distance, begging for salvation. His ears picked up every cry, every heartbeat, every life in peril. He couldn't fail. Not now. With a growl that rose into a roar, Superman surged upward, his cape blazing like fire. He struck Thanos again. One punch so devastating it rippled through the Titan's flames, tearing holes in his cosmic aura. The air around them vibrated with the force. Entire mountain ranges collapsed in the distance. Oceans surged, storms rose, and lightning sparked across the globe. For a moment, the Titan's smile faltered. Thor returned, rising from the sea, lightning bursting from his body like a second sun. He slammed both hammers together, summoning a storm that engulfed the entire planet. Thunder and steel, sunfire and fists. Together, Thor and Superman drove Thanos backward. The first cracks in eternity. Their combined assault forced Thanos on a one knee. Stormbreaker buried itself in his shoulder. Superman's fists pounded his chest, and Mjolnir smashed across his face again and again. The Titan bled. Cosmic fire dripped from his wounds, searing the earth like lava. But Thanos only laughed through the blood. "Good," he growled, spitting flames. "At last, opponents worthy of me." Then his eyes burned black. His gauntlet flared brighter. He tore Stormbreaker free from his shoulder and hurled it away like a child's toy. He caught Mjolnir mid-swing and crushed it in his palm, shattering the ancient weapon into fragments of divine steel. Thor froze. His heart shattered as the hammer that had chosen him turned to dust in his enemy's hand. Superman's fury ignited. He lunged again, his heat vision blinding, his fists like meteors. But Thanos caught him by the throat, lifting him effortlessly. "You are strong, Kryptonian," Thanos said, voice rumbling like an earthquake. But even suns die. And then he slammed Superman into the ground with such power the earth itself screamed. The promise of war. Thor howled, storm exploding around him. He gripped Stormbreaker, his last weapon, his last hope. With all his rage, all his pain, he charged, driving the axe straight into Thanos' chest. The blade pierced. The Titan roared. For the first time, he stumbled backward, clutching at the wound. Superman crawled to his feet, battered but unbroken, his eyes glowing crimson. He stood beside Thor once more, their bodies bruised but their will unshaken. Thanos wiped the cosmic blood from his lips and smiled. "Good," he said again, his voice dripping with menace. "Let us see how long you last when I bring the forge to its full power. This is only the beginning." He raised his arm to the heavens. The portals widened. Shadows covered the earth. The first day of the final Infinity War had begun. And Superman and Thor, two gods from two worlds, knew this was only round one. Rise of the Shadow War. The earth had never looked so fragile. Entire continents glowed in the darkness of alien fire. Portals tore holes in the sky, bleeding endless legions of shadow beasts onto cities already drowning in chaos. The oceans boiled, the air reeked of sulfur, and satellites showed what humanity had feared for centuries. The end had come, and it carried the name of Thanos. Superman and Thor stood among the ruins, bloodied yet unbroken. They had faced gods, demons, and wars across galaxies, but nothing had ever felt like this. The Mad Titan had returned with power beyond comprehension, and with it, he had brought a war that threatened not just Earth, but the multiverse itself. Thor gripped Stormbreaker, lightning crawling across his skin, his eyes blazing with rage. His voice shook the shattered ground beneath them. If he unleashes the forge fully, not even Asgard's legends can tell what happens next. Superman wiped the blood from his face, his cape torn to ribbons, his jaw set with determination. Then we don't let him unleash it. We stop him here. But even as he spoke, the world screamed. Shadow armies poured across cities like an endless tide. The battle expands. In New York, Avengers Tower burned, its once proud symbol shattered under the claws of beasts that devoured steel like flesh. In Metropolis, the Daily Planet globe lay smashed in the streets as civilians fled through rivers of fire. Across Paris, London, and Cairo, shadows blotted out the sun. Human militaries unleashed everything: jets, missiles, nuclear warheads, but none of it mattered. The creatures absorbed energy, multiplying every time they were struck. Every weapon used against them only made them stronger. Thor's knuckles tightened around Stormbreaker. "We cannot win this alone." Superman nodded grimly. "We don't have to." He lifted his hand to his communicator, one linked to the few remaining allies scattered across the stars. "This is Superman. Earth is under attack. If you can hear me, if you're still alive, we need you." For a moment, there was only static. Then a crackling voice broke through. "Kryptonian, the Green Lantern Corps hears you." Another voice. "This is Shazam. I'll fight until my last breath." Then, faint but fierce, Guardians of the Galaxy reporting. "Don't start without us." Hope flickered, faint but burning. Reinforcements were coming. But how long could Earth survive before they arrived? Clash with the Titan. The ground split again, and Thanos rose from the rubble, his fiery gauntlet pulsing with cosmic hunger. His chest still bore the wound from Stormbreaker, glowing like molten lava, but he walked as if untouched. His voice thundered across the battlefield. "You two hold the line well. But the forge cannot be stopped. It does not grant me power. IS power. You are not swatting at a star." Superman shot forward, rage in his eyes, striking Thanos with a punch so fast the sound arrived seconds later. The impact hurled the Titan into the stratosphere. Thor followed instantly, summoning a storm that covered half the earth. The three Titans clashed in the upper atmosphere, their blows lighting up the sky like a second sun. Satellites recorded the battle, broadcasting it across the globe. Billions watched, holding their breath as gods fought for their survival. Superman's heat vision carved across the Titan's armor, Thor's lightning exploded against his flesh, and Stormbreaker pierced deeper into his wounds. For a moment, victory seemed close. But Thanos roared, unleashing the Forge. Cosmic fire engulfed the sky, shattering satellites, burning through Superman's cape, and forcing Thor to one knee. The Titan's strength seemed infinite, each strike heavier than the last, each blast brighter than a collapsing sun. Every blow you land feeds me. Thanos bellowed, slamming Superman across the atmosphere. Every second you resist makes me stronger. The turning point. The world below teetered on collapse. Shadow legions consumed cities. Heroes and armies fought hopelessly, and the Earth's crust cracked under the pressure. Superman gasped for breath, his body bruised, his strength waning. Thor's face was grim, his eyes blazing, but his energy fading. They had thrown everything at the Titan, and still he stood. For the first time, doubt crept in. But then, the skies changed. Green streaks of light blazed across the darkness. The Green Lantern Corps descending in full force, emerald rings burning bright against the shadow armies. Behind them came starships, ragged and battered, but filled with warriors from distant worlds who had answered Superman's call. Shazam struck like thunder, his magic burning away swarms of beasts. Even the Guardians Milano pierced through the fire, blasting enemies from the sky. The battlefield shifted. Hope returned. Superman's voice cut through the chaos. We're not alone anymore. Thor, together. Thor raised Stormbreaker high, lightning splitting the heavens. Then let the Titan face all of us. The storm of unity. The battle that followed was unlike anything the universe had seen. Lanterns unleashed constructs of unimaginable power. Shazam summoned storms of pure magic. Alien fleets rained fire upon the legions, and Guardians fought tooth and claw. And at the center of it all, Superman and Thor striking side by side. Superman's fists shattered Thanos' armor piece by piece, his heat vision burning holes into the Titan's flames. Thor's lightning scorched the gauntlet, Stormbreaker cleaving deeper into the wound it had already made. Together, they forced Thanos onto his knees again, his grin faltering, his flames dimming. For the first time, the Mad Titan looked uncertain. You cannot stop inevitability, Thanos snarled, struggling against their combined might. But Superman's voice was steady, filled with unshakable resolve. We've heard that before, and every time, we've proven it wrong. Thor bellowed with fury. For Asgard, for Midgard, and with a final combined strike, Superman's burning fists and Thor's lightning-charged Stormbreaker, they drove Thanos into the earth, his body carving a crater miles wide. The world shook. The skies split. The Titan roared in agony. The shadow falls quiet. For a moment, silence. The shadow armies faltered, their movements sluggish. The portals flickered, their energy unstable. Across the globe, the tide seemed to break. Civilians dared to hope. Soldiers raised their fists. Heroes stood taller. Superman hovered above the crater, chest heaving, eyes glowing. Thor stood beside him, his hair crackling with lightning, his armor shattered, but his spirit unbroken. Is it over? Thor asked, his voice wary. Superman's gaze stayed locked on the smoking pit. Not yet, and he was right. The Titan's oath. From the crater, a hand emerged, wreathed in fire, dripping with molten blood. Thanos pulled himself upward, his body torn, but his grin burning brighter than ever. His voice was raw, thunderous, and filled with wrath. You've wounded me more than any before, but you do not understand. The Forge does not let me die. Every defeat, every scar, only fuels its fire. You have not ended this war. You have begun it. His flames erupted again, brighter than ever. The portal stabilized. The shadows rose once more, shrieking in endless hunger. Superman and Thor stood ready, but both knew the truth. The Titan was not yet beaten. This was not the end. It was only the opening act of the final Infinity War. And Thanos, his voice shaking the universe, declared, "When I am done, not even gods will remember what it means." The multiverse burns. The world had seen war before. It had seen alien invasions, cosmic tyrants, gods and demons tearing at its skies. But this was different. Thanos had risen stronger than ever, fused with the forge of oblivion, and every strike meant to wound him only made him stronger. Superman and Thor had fought him with all they had. Armies of heroes had answered their call, and yet the Titans still stood. Worse, the forge was spreading. Every portal in the sky was no longer just a gate for shadow creatures. They were cracks in the walls of existence itself. Whole pieces of other dimensions bled through, and universes began to collide. The first collapse. In Tokyo, civilians looked up to see two moons in the sky, one from Earth, one from a parallel Earth now bleeding into their reality. In New York, buildings appeared out of nowhere, structures from alternate timelines phasing into existence. Some crumbled instantly, others remained twisted against the cityscape like broken bones. The multiverse was collapsing. Thor's face hardened, his voice grim. He isn't just destroying Midgard. He's tearing open all of Yggdrasil. The world tree itself is bleeding. Superman hovered above the battlefield, his eyes glowing red as he scanned the chaos. He's merging universes. If he succeeds, there won't be anything left, not just here but everywhere. The Lantern Corps, Guardians, Shazam, and the armies that had rallied to Earth fought on, but the Shadow Legions only grew, fed by the multiverse's collapse. Thanos' laughter echoed through every portal, his voice so loud it shook entire planets. Why rule one universe when I can forge them all into one? A cosmos remade in my image, where eternity kneels to me alone. A desperate council. Amid the chaos, Superman and Thor regrouped with the surviving leaders inside the ruins of the Avengers compound. Lanterns flickered in exhaustion, Shazam's lightning dimmed, and alien commanders argued in languages no one understood. Superman slammed his fist into the table, the impact silencing the room. Fighting him head-on won't be enough. We need a way to cut him off from the forge itself. A lantern spoke, his green aura trembling. The forge is eternal. It cannot be destroyed. It is older than OA, older than the source. Thor stepped forward, his eyes glowing faintly with all-father power. What can be sealed? There are ancient runes of Asgard, rituals older than Odin himself, that bind cosmic fires. With the right power, with the right sacrifice, it may be possible. The room fell silent. The word sacrifice hung heavy. Superman clenched his jaw. Whatever it takes. If I have to give my life, I'll do it. Thor placed a hand on his shoulder, his voice steady but fierce. Hey, Kryptonian, this war will demand more than a single life. It will demand everything. The counterstrike. The plan was desperate. Superman and Thor would lead a strike team directly into the heart of Thanos' forge, an interdimensional rift now expanding above the ruins of Titan's moon. While armies held back the endless legions on Earth, the gods would face the Titan in his seat of power. The Green Lanterns formed an emerald shield around the portal, Guardians flew escort, and Shazam channeled divine lightning to stabilize the breach. Superman looked back once at the Earth below, battered and broken, its people still fighting to survive. His eyes softened for a heartbeat, but then hardened with resolve. He turned to Thor. Ready? Thor smirked, Stormbreaker crackling with lightning. Let's remind the Titan what true gods look like. And together, they entered the forge. Into the forge. The inside was beyond comprehension. It was not space, nor time, nor reality. It was the fire that birthed them all. Rivers of molten eternity flowed across endless plains of ash. Stars were forged and destroyed in the blink of an eye. The air itself burned with creation and destruction intertwined. And at the center, seated upon a throne of black suns, was Thanos. His body blazed brighter than before, his wounds sealed, his armor fused with cosmic magma. His gauntlet arm pulsed like a living star. Around him knelt legions of shadow creatures, their eyes glowing with mindless devotion. Welcome, Thanos said, his voice echoing in every direction, in every reality at once. You step into the forge itself. You step into eternity. And here I am absolute. Superman floated forward, fists clenched, eyes burning. Then eternity is about to learn what it means to bleed. Thor roared, raising Stormbreaker. For Asgard. For Midgard. And the final clash began. Gods versus Titan. Superman struck first, faster than light, his fist colliding with Thanos' chest and sending shockwaves through the forge. Stars flickered in response, entire galaxies quaking. Thor followed instantly, hurling Stormbreaker with lightning that seared the skies white. Thanos rose, catching both blows with his burning gauntlet. He roared, his voice shaking existence, and unleashed a wave of energy that sent both gods crashing into rivers of molten time. But they rose again. They always rose. Thor summoned storms so massive they crackled across realities, lightning ripping holes in space itself. Superman's heat vision burned through the Titan's armor, his strikes raining down like meteors. Thanos answered with fury. His gauntlet split the ground, sending tidal waves of cosmic fire crashing across the battlefield. He hurled planets like stones, shattered suns with his fists, and caught Superman mid-flight, driving him into the core of a dying star. Superman screamed, his body aflame, but his will unbroken. He erupted from the star's heart, eyes blazing brighter than ever. I'll never stop, Thanos. Not while one life still needs saving. He struck again, his fists glowing with raw determination. Thor joined him, Stormbreaker cleaving into the Titan's shoulder, lightning surging with the fury of Asgard's bloodline. Together, they pushed him back. The Titan's revelation. But Thanos laughed, even as he bled cosmic fire. Fools, you do not understand. I do not seek to kill you. I seek to consume you. His gauntlet flared, and suddenly the forge itself responded. Flames coiled around Superman and Thor, draining their power, feeding it into the Titan. Superman staggered, his heat vision sputtering. Thor dropped to one knee, Stormbreaker dimming. Thanos stepped forward, towering above them, his grin wider than ever. You are not my enemies. You're my fuel. Your godhood, your will, your power, it will all become mine. With your strength, I will become the Omega, the end of all things. Superman forced himself upright, blood dripping, his voice hoarse but defiant. Then you'll have to kill us first. Thanos' smile darkened. Gladly, the unbreakable will. The battle raged on. Superman's bones cracked, his muscles screamed, but still he fought. Every punch carried the weight of every life he had ever sworn to protect. Every strike was a promise, to Krypton, to Earth, to every world crying out for hope. Thor's storms dimmed, his body battered, but his rage only grew. He remembered his father, his mother, his brother Loki, his people slaughtered. He remembered every life lost to Thanos before, every war the Titan had caused. And his fury became divine. Side by side, broken yet unyielding, they struck again. And for the first time, Thanos faltered.